right, that's it for the assessors. Now we're going to move on to supervisors. So we're going to start with Mark Reed. And again, you guys, if you have questions while the candidate is speaking, please just go put them in the bag and we'll get their questions answered, okay? Go back here.
My name is Mark Reed, and I want to thank everybody for showing up. I want to thank the Northfork boosters for setting this up, and also the Wade Wheeler trying to keep everybody in control and keeping the questions flowing properly. I'm going to own a couple of things right off of the bat. I am a rock-solid, lifelong conservative constitutionalist who happens to be registered Republican. I am the only lifelong conservative constitutionalist on the ballot. But because of my background, I've learned to be very pragmatic when it comes to public policy. You need to listen to all sides of the coin. You need to come to a pragmatic decision. What is in the best interest of the entire community and everybody at large. Because when you represent and you're sitting in a seat, an elected seat, you're representing everybody. I'm not just representing my party. I'm not representing the other party. I don't have hatreds or hostilities for anybody. You have to be very pragmatic. I've got 48 years of business management behind me. I've got 37 years of business ownership behind me. I've been the national rep for American Indians for 15 years. I've been flown around the country to speak on diversity issues, job development, job opportunities. I've set up programs in Canada, set up programs throughout the United States and in Canada. The other thing I'm going to own right up front, yes, I'm sure all of you have heard, I've run for Congress in Los Angeles. I have a lot of years in Los Angeles. That's where I've got my business from. I still have properties in Los Angeles. But I moved up here with my family, entire family. We live in Oakhurst. That is my primary residence. All of my grandchildren live here. My wife for 45 years, 11 grandkids, 1 grandson, 10 granddaughters, 1 son, 2 daughters, all live in this community. And I'm really happy because my fishing boat does not fill up, only having 1 grandson and 1 son. But all of my granddaughters and my daughters all ride horses. They all know how to fish. They all know how to shoot. They all know how to take care of themselves because I wanted them to be very independent. A lot of the agenda items that I have and reasons for running for county supervisor, because it's within the county's purview, is we have outrageous insurance policy premiums for fire right now. This has been the mismanagement of the county, of the fire department, fire protection, fuel management, forestry management, private management of private homes, and enforcing the code enforcements of cleanups, and so forth. Also, we have 13 contracted fire stations with CAL FIRE. 6 of them are unmanned. Where do you think the 6 are at? 5 of them are right up here in East Madera County. Insurance companies, I just posted this on Facebook, insurance companies use an out-of-state consultant to do the risk management assessment. It's called Fireline. They deal with the topography, they deal with ingress and egress, and the fire department, how fast they can get there, and how much fuel is around homes. They do that by satellite projections, they do that by zip codes. So you've noticed now that your fire insurance has gone sky high, and there is no repercut, there is no recourse. We have the FireWise out there. Bobby's done a great job instituting the FireWise of hardening houses, hardening communities. You can apply for a 10% discount. That's all fine and dandy, but 10% off of $10,000, that $9,000 still hurts. People can't buy homes up here because now they have to factor in their fire insurance policy with their mortgage, and most people can't afford it. So that's a major issue right there. Then you dive into the next issues within our communities. We have a complete lack of housing. We have a lack of housing, affordable housing, rentals, and low-income housing, apartment dwelling as well for workers that come up here. Our Airbnb issue is another issue that has been created by our county government. We have 850 houses that have been snatched up by outside investors, inside investors, and people can't even compete. The house comes up for sale. The outside investors are offering 20, 30, 40, 50,000 more than what they're asking for that house. And it gets snatched up in cash. Just in my neighborhood, when we bought over a decade ago, nice quiet cul-de-sac, right on Bonneview. Beautiful, I love the area. Within the last 10 years, 5 Airbnbs have been put into that community. Only one of them is managed in-house management. The other 4 out-of-state investors. We found crack cocaine, we found methamphetamines in the driveway, we see people wandering around our own community, within our own yards, because none of us have fences. This is out of control at this point. We need to look at a real ordinance issue. How do we fix this problem? I'm not against making money, but the ordinance, the original ordinance was for basic bedroom and breakfast. If you wanted to rent out a room in your house, somebody wanted to come by and rent your room and rented it, you were able to manage the property. But what's happened now is within the bedroom communities, people are buying out these houses and they're destroying the integrity of the community. They're destroying the integrity of the bedroom communities, they're destroying the integrity of some retirement communities. Because you have people that are coming in from the city, they don't care. They make bonfires outside because it's neat. You're in the forest. You live in the forest, you make a bonfire. They have no idea that the cinders can go out and start a fire and get going, because this is in the summertime. And this is what's happening constantly. So I have definite ideas and plans of how to deal with the Airbnb. Not taking everybody's permits away from them. I've already heard that being circulated around. Mark Reed hates Airbnbs, he's gonna take it. No. We have to come up with proper ordinances to protect the integrity of the bedroom communities and the retirement communities. All the Airbnbs that are legally operating now, they have their conditional use permit, they have their business license, they'll be grandfathered in. But with the new ordinances that come out, if they break noise ordinances, meaning there's a big party going on at 1 o'clock in the morning, the sheriff's department shows up, they have to shut them down, they're gonna pay for the sheriff showing up. They're gonna pay for the fire department showing up. But if they get 3 of those and they're outside of the zone that has been determined by the community, they can have their business license and their conditional use permit pulled at that point. They'll lose that right if they're outside of the community. So those are some of the ideas that I have involved in there. But I'd like to go ahead and open it up to questions. I think you end up finding more about me by asking questions.
Okay, your first question is, what are your thoughts about tourism and what would you change?
Tourism right now is the mainstay of the economy up in East Madera County. And I don't have a problem with tourism. I think we need to encourage more of it here. But at the same time, economic development needs to take care of the other 9 months within the community. Because it's great to have tourists come up here. Maybe go up in Yosemite National Park, quite a few come up for the 3 months in Bass Lake. But we need to do economic development to secure the incomes of everybody that lives in this community when the tourism season isn't here. So I don't have a problem with tourism at all. We need to increase it, we need to advertise it and get it out there.
All right, next question. What local clubs are you a part of and how much time do you donate to them weekly on average?
I'm not involved really in any local clubs, okay? My local club and band of expertise is 11 grandchildren, a wife, 2 businesses, 5 different properties, 3 adult children. That consumes my time. The one thing that I did get involved in recently, last June, is when the county put out the 218 to raise our trash by double. And they're claiming that it was a mandatory, it was state mandate. The state was doing all of this to us. Well, we organized a committee called the Trash Advisory Group, Sierra Citizens for Sensible Trash Management. And we have been meeting with Bobby, Tom Wheeler, and the county. And we went over 1383, went over the Cal Recycle regs, and we came to the conclusion there's absolutely nothing in the regs that mandates individual trash service. It mandates the trash haulers to offer a green can. And if you happen to fit into the census tract where 1383 applies and Cal Recycle applies, you still have the option to self-haul. And we're still in the conversations with the county and with Madco and Red Rock about how is that going to pan out. They want to give you a waiver. They want you to pay for the waiver. you're paying for something you don't want. And it's like, wow, that's like getting a dog, paying for a non-dog license because you don't want a dog. It's kind of ridiculous. So we're still working on that one, but we did succeed because they passed an ordinance that did not include mandatory trash service. It's still subscription based.
So the next few questions are going to be about fire-wise, basically. Some of them, they provided some context, so bear with me as I read these. So,
10 minutes. That's pretty good.
So this citizen is asking, if there were fire stations every 10 miles apart in the mountains, would this in fact reduce homeowners' fire insurance premiums, or are there other factors that are more important in keeping our insurance rates high? It's kind of a two-part question, so that's the first question. If so, what can we do? For example, how do we properly thin our forests when the environmental groups over the past 50 years have sued to prevent proper forest thinning?
Well, those are loaded questions, but I'll tackle the first one. The first one is kind of simple. Because the things have gotten so mismanaged and out of control, the forest, the federal forest, the state forest, state lands, since it's gotten so mismanaged at this point, you could have a station every other block and it still doesn't matter because the amount of fires that have taken place in the state of California have gotten out of control. And the fire reduction, the fuel reduction has gotten so out of control. The mismanagement is so outrageous. All the insurance companies are looking at right now is risk assessment. And they're looking at it from satellite pictures, they're looking at fire readiness, the manpower, what kind of water distribution do they have. They're looking at all different elements. So when your broker is sitting in their office in Oakhurst, downtown Oakhurst, all they're doing is collecting the necessary data. How big is your house? What is your house made out of? What is the size of the house? What is your address? What is the zip code? They send it to the insurance company. The insurance company basically sends it back after they go through all of their algorithms to find out what the risk assessment is based on all of that. And they say, well, we'll write an insurance policy for this much money. Your broker comes back to you and says, I've got 3 options for you. Option worse, worse, and worse. The fuel reduction. Tom McClintock is our congressman. Tom McClintock came out with an endorsement for me, and so has 4 other congressmen. He did an extremely good pilot program in Lake Tahoe, which was letting loggers come in and log the older trees. And in the contract, they had to cut the lower brush down and remove all of that fuel. The loggers were happy, they made a lot of money. Fuel reduction was implemented quite well. And it was one of the reasons why the fire up there didn't take off, because of that program that was done. I'll be talking with Tom McClintock, I'm going to bring it here, because there's no reason why we can't bring loggers in.
Amen.
If the county wants to sit there and kowtow to environmentalists, it's the environmentalists that have created the problems in our forest by over micromanaging the forest. This is why they're dying. You've got, we call them weed trees, which is the bolt pines. They suck up 150 gallons of water a day. They're useless. Why can't we go in there and just take those out? And just say, well, water table would also cut down the amount of fuel that's in the forest. There's all kinds of things that can be done. We need to learn to stand up to the environmentalists, even if it means a lawsuit. And it will end up being a lawsuit, because I've gone into the ranger stations, and they'll show me a wall full of lawsuits by environmentalists for not even being able to cut down dead trees.
Awesome. Okay, sticking to the fire thing, I'll just read the whole thing.
Okay.
While there is a lot of talk about unmanned fire stations, which I acknowledge is extremely important, I saw the very early moments of the mission fire unfold from my yard. As we had family and friends living there, we quickly jumped in our trucks and went to help evacuate people in need. I was then one of the many trapped in an SIP situation within just a few minutes. That's stay in place. Stay in place? What is it? This is
Shelter in place.
shelter in place, thank you. The terrain was so steep and densely populated with brush and trees that in my assessment, even if there were 500 firefighters on hand at the time, they couldn't have attacked the fire any better. Aircraft was essential and was the only way to safely begin the fight. So the question is, along with manning the fire stations, how can we get quicker air support, meaning aircraft loaded and ready to go, stationed in the immediate area?
That's working in cooperation with the state assembly and state senators to be able to get those assets up here faster. There's manning all the fire stations. We have 13 fire stations for 2,100 square miles. Just think about that for a minute. That's ridiculous. You can man them all, it's still not gonna work. The insurance companies are up and over the hill because now California's burned up so much. You look at Cascadel, the fire went through there, that heat was so unbelievable. Cal Fire and our sheriff's department did an unbelievable job saving the houses that were up there. But the heat was unbelievable. And that's because of the amount of fuel that's still there. People think that if it's burned once, it won't burn again. No, there's still a lot of fuel out there, even the dead trees that are off that have been burned already. It still can catch fire and go. So manning all the fire stations, no, that's not gonna work. We need a fire protection plan, we need a fuel reduction plan, we need to man the fire stations, increase fire stations. And how do we do that? Everybody says, how do you fund it? How do you go after that? Bobby's talked about it a few times. There's a lot of grant money, there's a lot of federal money out there, there's a lot of state money out there. How do we go after it and get it? But how do we have an effective fire protection plan in place to be able to, what's the word I'm looking for, utilize the resources in the best possible way. But when the insurance companies look at this community and they say you've got all these manned fire stations down there, you have called paid firefighters manning the other 6, that extends the response time. And because there's so much fuel, if it gets going, it's going to get going and just take off. You need pretty much helicopter air support right away. How do you get that? That's the things that I'll be looking into immediately. But we're over a tipping point where the insurance companies aren't going to look at anything. We need to really, it's an emergent situation and it hasn't been looked at effectively in, let's say, 20 years. I won't just blame it all on Tom. I say 20 years. Because we need to look at what the fuel is. And it should have been a priority ever since the Harlow fire. Because that was the fastest moving fire in history. Are we looking at a repeat of that? Probably. If it got going, probably. Next question.
So again, sticking with the fire thing, this is kind of interesting. This constituent would like to know why we're not able to let goats eat the underbrush. With goats, we only have to pay for one herd. And they do this in Oakland.
I do that on my properties. I have a herd of 40 goats. I rent them out. I let them go. They eat everything. I don't have to pay for workers' comp. I don't have to pay college funds. I don't have to pay a whole bunch of things for them. I just let them go out in the yard and eat it. You know, so yeah, why not? I mean, goats are an unbelievable creature because they eat everything. But cattle do too. You know, mind you, I've got friends with 50,000 acre ranches over in Arizona, and they move them from sector to sector to sector, and the cattle do the same thing. So we need to be more friendly to cattle. We need to be more friendly to goats. Even though cattle be more than goats and sheep. But yeah, natural ways of cutting the fuel down is really good. I do that already. I loan mine out to quite a few different people that I know.
So you talked about Airbnbs in the beginning a little bit. This constituent is asking specifically, what steps would you propose to take regarding Airbnb?
Very simple steps. I want to get the realtors together, the homeowners association, the property owners associations together, along with property management and all of the chambers of commerce into a roundtable and come to the conclusion of what areas they would consider tourism areas, where it would be appropriate. Get feedback and buy-in from the communities as well. Because, like I said, the integrity of bedroom communities and retirement communities is really high on my list. Because I've heard nothing but complaints. At the same time, there's a lot of families here that want to supplement their income. And so they have a bed and breakfast. They'll rent out a room, they'll rent out a garage that's been converted, and it helps them economically. And I'm fine with that. If they get a conditional use permit and they get a bed and breakfast business permit for that, I'm fine with that because they need that up here to supplement their income. So those are the first steps I would take right there, is understanding the different uses, because vacation rentals is another thing that's a big problem. I've heard several complaints that somebody will buy a big house, they call it a vacation rental, they'll stack 40 people in there, they'll have bonfires going on the outside, and it's just out of control. So we have to identify that, and that's where the ordinances come in. How do you define the different areas? What do you identify them as being, what is fully and acceptable, and you get the community buy-in on it. What areas do you not want in here? What areas do we allow the bed and breakfast? You have on-site management, meaning the owner of the property is there. And that includes a property that has 2 houses on it. If the secondary house, but the homeowner's still there, they're watching. They don't want their property to get torn up. They don't want the neighbors pissed off at them. So they'll sit there and manage it properly. What I get mostly upset about is the out-of-state, out-of-county buyers buying up everything. And believe it or not, a couple of my cousins have got a couple of houses in Mariposa, and they do it. So they wouldn't like what I'm proposing either. But this is where you're fighting to preserve the way of life that we have here. I think we've got 30 seconds. One last question.
Closing remarks.
Closing remarks.
You're good to go.
I love this community. We're in a battle for our way of life, not a politician's way of life or their anointed ones. We're in a battle for our way of life. And what kind of life is that? That is a very solid, conservative, constitutional life that believes in the proper role of government, that's there to just preserve our life, our security, and our freedoms. And that's what I will do constantly. I will be a very pragmatic representative of District 5 and look at the best interests of everybody, regardless of where you come from, who you are, what party you are, because that's the proper role of government. If you have any further questions, you can bring me back.